Hello all, good morning. This is Dr. S. Subbalakshmi, Assistant Professor in the Department of Mathematics, SNS College of Technology. This is a lecture video series on the course Statistics and we are on to the topic F-test. In the previous video, we have seen a problem related to the F-test and now we have one more problem on the F-test. The problem goes like two random samples have the following results. We are given with the sample numbers, sample size, sample mean and sum of the squares of the deviations from the mean. As explained in the previous video, we are all just given with this summation of the squares of the deviations from the mean. So this is what we are given with. What do we have to do? We have to test whether the samples have come from the same population or not. Since we are given with mean and the squares of the deviations, we have to check for both of the cases in the given problem. So first we will be checking for the sample mean whether it is coming from the same population or not, and for the second question we will be checking for the sample variances given here. So we are just going to check for the two samples with the help of two tests here. We are going to test whether the samples have come from the same normal population or not. So moving on to the solution, as discussed earlier, we have two samples are here and the sample mean is given. If the sample mean is given, we have to use student t-test as discussed earlier in the previous videos. For the sample mean, we will be testing the hypothesis using t-test. And for the sum of the squares of deviations of the given test, you will be using F-test. So for analyzing variances, we will be using S-test, F-test, and for the analyzing mean, we will be using t-test. So in this particular problem, we will be having two of the major tests. What are the tests here? T-test and F-test. And we will be moving on to the problem as discussed earlier. Given that n1 is equal to 10, n2 is equal to 12 and the sample mean for first sample is 15 and the sample mean for second sample is 14. And also we are given with the sum of the squares of the deviations with the sample, which is nothing but x1 minus x1 bar the whole square and y1 minus y1 bar the whole square, which is also given with. So these are the given things. And what we have to do? We have to go on with the testing of hypothesis procedure. Firstly, we will go on with the equality of variances. We will check for the variances. What is this? F-test. F-test is nothing but null hypothesis h naught colon s1 squared is equal to s2 squared. This is what our null hypothesis is. Here we can mention it as sigma 1 squared is equal to sigma 2 squared for the same population. Only for the population we will be mentioning the null hypothesis. So since we doesn't have any alternative hypothesis, we will now move on to the test statistic. What is our test statistic for F-test? F calculated value to be F calculated to be S1 squared by S2 squared. This is as simple as that, and we will be just mentioning that what is S1 squared and what is S2 squared. We are already given with the sum of the squares of the deviations for the first sample and sum of the squares of the deviations of the second sample as well. And we will just calculate the values of S1 squared and S2 squared, and it is found that S1 squared is bigger than S2 squared, and therefore we will put S1 square on the numerator and S2 square on the denominator. So moving on to the next step, we will just calculate the value with the help of a calculator. So it will be 1.018. Now the next step is to calculate the table value. For that we are in need of the degrees of freedom. Since we are not given with any of the degrees of freedom, we will fix it to be 5% level of significance, and the degrees of freedom is 9, 11, since row 1 is 9 and row 2 is 11. As discussed earlier, we will just calculate with the help of the sample numbers given, and for the F tabulated value is 2.90. So now what we have to do, we will just compare the calculated value and the table value here. What will be the which will be the lesser value? As obviously it is F calculated is lesser to the tabulated value, and therefore what we will do, we will just accept the null hypothesis h naught. Therefore what we can decide, as per the sample mean given, the samples have come from the same population. This is how we use F-test here, and since we are given with the means also, we will be using student t-test. As discussed earlier, we know the procedure for student t-test obviously. Null hypothesis h naught colon mu1 is equal to mu2, which for the population, which are for the population, this is population mean 1 and population mean 2. So alternative hypothesis is h1 colon mu1 not equal to mu2. Since there is no comparison given for the two samples, we will just take it to be not equal to. If there is any comparison like higher, greater, lesser, superior, like so, we will be mentioning it as less than or greater than. Since we are not given with any of the comparisons in the testing processes, we will just mention it as not equal to. Therefore we will be mentioning it as two-tailed test. And moving on to the test statistic. What is our test statistic? We will just have the test statistic to be t calculated. What is t calculated? Which is equal to x1 bar minus x2 bar by s into root of 1 by n1 plus 1 by n2. This is already explained in the previous t test videos. And now we will have a look on to the calculation of s squared. It is a mere simple calculation as we have done earlier. We are given with all these values here. Summation of x1 bar and x1 minus x1 bar and summation of y1 minus y1 bar. All values are given. We will just substitute and find the value of s. And later we will be substituting it in the t calculated value. What is t calculated? T calculated is nothing but 0.74. With the help of a calculator, we will just find it. Later on, for t table value, we will be fixing it the level of significance to be 5%. Level of significance to be 5%, and here we have only one degree of freedom, which is n1 plus n2 minus 2, which is 20. So as per the table, we will be noting that t table value is 2.086. T table value is 2.086. So what do we infer now? T calculated is less than the t tabulated value. Therefore, we accept null hypothesis here also. Therefore, what we have to conclude that the samples have come from the same population as per the sample means given. So, hence, for the two of the tests conducted now, for the t test and for the sample f test, we'll just conclude the problem as the samples have been drawn from the same normal population. This is how we conclude using two of the tests, which is student t test and f test. So, this is a problem explanation on doing how we implement the procedure in F test problems. Thank you.